Hi, my name is Laura Hicks. I'm the AV specialist here at the Laboratory Schools. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you the basics on how to use our soundboard here in the assembly hall. So, first of all, don't be overwhelmed. It may look scary, but really, you're just going to be working with channels. Everything down here is just a repeat so that you can make adjustments to each input that you're using. So, for example, these first 6 channels or inputs are our 6 microphones. Not too complicated. And then the next thing to note is up here there's this SEL button. That just means select. You can only click one at a time. Like I could try to click multiple, it won't work. Only one at a time, because when you have it selected, that means that up here you can make all these adjustments to this specific channel. So we're going to go ahead and work with channel 1 right now. The very next thing to note is this on button right here. Once you click it, it lights up orange, and that means that this channel is now on. So there's a difference between select and on. Multiple things can be on at once, but you're only going to be selecting and working with one channel at a time. So let's see, let's go through the motions of what you would need to do in order to use a channel. So like I said, first we're going to click select on that channel that we're working with, and then we're going to turn it on. Now, the first thing you always do when working with a channel is turn up the gain. And that's sometimes confused with volume, but gain and volume are two different things. I like to think of gain as the input, so it's the amount of sound that you're bringing into the soundboard through your microphone in that channel, and the volume is how loud you want the sound to be when you send it out of the soundboard into, your speakers and stuff. So gain is sort of input and volume is output. So this fader down here controls the volume, so we're not just gonna turn this on and bump it up and hope that it works. That is not what you need to do. You need to first gain it, and so the control to gain it is located up here. And the way that this screen works, it's a touch screen, so you can tap on other things. If you hold it down like hard or extra adjustments pop up, but just a small tap will let you select certain things. So you can tap on gain, and once that is selected with that like highlight white around it, that's when you can now use this knob and twist it, and see how that is spinning now when I spin this. So for gain, this would, all the way to the left would be nothing is gained up, and then as you speak into the mic, we want to watch these indicator lights right here, and we want, like down here it'll be like green, and it'll get yellow, and then it'll be red, and red is like, okay, you've got way too much coming into the soundboard, it's gonna like blow your system. You really want it to be a solid green, maybe hitting yellow. So as I speak into the microphone, I'm going to start twisting this knob and turning the gain up and speaking into the microphone and speaking into the microphone and starting to see if I can get those indicator lights. Turn the mic on first. That would be helpful. Okay, starting fresh. Check, check, check. Checking the mic. Turning up the gain with this knob and watching these indicator lights right here. Okay, checking the mic. That's a solid amount of information coming in, and now we can manipulate it. And who's ever checking the mic, you want them to be speaking at the volume that they will actually be speaking at when they're on stage. So right now, this is maybe a little too high. It's kind of bumping into the yellow range. So we don't really need that much information coming into the board. We don't want to hurt anything. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And this is where I ended up. My gain is about halfway. Okay, so now that we have information coming into the board, I just want to go over some of the adjustments that you're able to make to each particular channel before you decide to send the information out of the soundboard. So let's talk about EQ. EQ stands for equalizer. Imagine you have a graph, and the x-axis is the frequencies or pitches. So all the way on the left of the x-axis are your bass notes, your really low frequencies. And then all the way on the right are the highest frequencies, like somebody singing really high pitch. An EQ allows you to choose specific frequencies and take them out, pull them down, remove them if they're causing issues like feedback. And a good way to explain feedback is, imagine if you have a microphone and you're singing into it. Your voice goes into the microphone, is being sent to the soundboard, and then goes out to the speakers in the room. Feedback occurs when the sound coming out of the speakers is picked up by the microphone, goes into the soundboard, out of the speakers, into the mic again, into the soundboard, out of the speakers, and the feedback loop just gets louder and louder until you hear a high-pitched squealing noise. So on our soundboard, right now, like you can see where the pitches in my voice are. They're bouncing around. My voice looks like it's kind of right between 1K and 2K. So if you needed to pull a frequency out, you could find it down here. So let's just see, like, we're just going to play around with it. So this is where you can choose a specific frequency, and there's basically like it kind of breaks the graph up into 4 different sections. You've got your lows down here, so that's going to be controlled by this. You've got your like low mids controlled down here, your high mids, and then your high. So let's just like look at what the high mid does. I have this button selected, so I'm going to find the frequency. And you see, as I spin this yellow dot is moving around on the x-axis because I'm choosing, like, you know what, I want to pull out around 2K. Alright, so I've found the frequency now. I'm going to pull it out. So, like, anywhere that it's green, that means it's, like, reducing those frequencies and how much you hear them. So this is where you actually pull it out. This is to select it, frequency, gain. This button right here, I think, kind of tightens it or widens it for you. So if you are really just having trouble with one specific pitch that's causing feedback, you can like tighten that up real tight and just focus on pulling out that one like frequency. Or if it's like, you know, I really have like a lot of issues with this whole, like everything kind of around 5K, you could like widen that and make it more smooth so it's not such a stark, like, you know, someone's voice has a lot of pitches to it, and you don't want it to sound like tinny or empty. So a smooth graph is better than like a really tight one. So you can always like sweep around like this if you're like, I'm having trouble finding it. Anyways, so it's good to note that like somebody using a handheld microphone needs a different EQ setup than a lapel microphone, because lapel microphones are super sensitive. So I can show you an example of that later, what that might look like. But another thing I want to point out when speaking about EQ is that there's this thing called HPF, which stands for high pass filter. And that is, that means when you turn it on for a channel, you're allowing all the high frequencies to pass through. And so it will block the low frequencies. So for example, like the human vocal range doesn't even go this low. This is like a kick drum or a bass guitar playing really low notes. Our voice doesn't even register and make. So anytime you're using a microphone just for somebody to speak into or sing into, always put on a high pass filter. There's no reason not to, because all that means is if there's a singer and there's like a drum behind them, you don't want their microphone to be grabbing any of that noise from the drum. So we're going to just tell the microphone to block out all those low frequencies and just capture the person's vocal voice. So the high pass filter right here, like right now it's on, and you can see that blue dot right there is kind of where it's saying like, let's cut all this to here. If I turn it off, that's what it looks like. If I turn it on, it's like that. I'm going to go ahead and tap on this just so you see what this change is. It's just changing like around what area do you want to stop the high pass filter from functioning. All right, and so now that we've dealt with adjusting all our EQ and gain for this channel, the last thing to do is to bring the volume up. Oh, and when you want to get out of this, just tap that. So now we're just going to bring the volume up, and so I'm going to try this out, but you still aren't going to hear anything in the house, because the very last step is to turn up the actual house speakers. And when I say house, that's just like a term for the sound that's playing for the audience. So it might also be referred to as like the mains, which means the main speakers. So that's these two right over here. So again, let's turn these up. Still not going to hear anything because you need them to be on. Check, and now you hear me. So these are all the basic tools you need when working with a microphone and a soundboard. And I hope you learned a lot, and in our next tutorial we're going to go over sends and mixes. Thanks.